I'ma put my light in the sky. I promise not to cry. I'm above for you.
Amen.
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 Got a special one here with us today.
Super duper special.
Super special.
Super special.
My mother, my beautiful mom.
Hi.
Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
Sure.
How you doing, mama?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Can never complain.
Yes, no need to complain. I'm very honored to be here.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
We're honored to have you.
Very honored, yes.
Yes.
Very blessed to have my beautiful mother here with us today. Is it Mother's Day weekend?
Yes.
Is
Mother's
it
Day is
today?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, all
Yes.
right. My fault. I've been,
Jeez, you think the kid would know.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what happens when you feel like you run around like a chicken with your head cut off. You just don't know what day it is. But so here on Mother's Day weekend, very blessed.
Yes.
How'd your week go this week, Mom?
My week went pretty well. Pretty busy, as you know, running
Yes.
a business. Pretty busy, but it went very well this weekend. This week. It was more, I guess it was busier more so towards the beginning of the week, but then kind of like, towards the end of the week, things kind of lessened up a little bit. But it went good. It went good. Can't complain, as you guys
good to
said.
hear.
Can't complain. Yes, yes.
Good to hear.
How'd your week go, man?
It went good. Work, same old.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Yeah, it was really just. I don't know one curse. Same stuff, different. Same stuff, different day. You know what I mean? So you can't really complain.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite saying. I'm about to get that tatted across my forehead.
Yeah.
Can't really complain.
That's right.
God woke me up all days this week, so I'm healthy. I'm not sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what more can I ask for?
Right.
That's right. That's right.
Beautiful.
How'd your week go, bro?
My week went pretty well. Just been doing a lot of working on, getting myself together.
Yeah.
As my mom knows, she know me better than anyone, just be out here and stuff just be piling up and doing all a bunch of crazy stuff. But, that's why I'm glad to have, my mom, my dad in my corner to, just, make sure I'm on a straight narrow line and,
Got you.
but no, like with my week, it's pretty good. I work in the office, so I just do a lot of filing, paperwork and stuff like that, and the transport. So just same thing, different day, like you said. So I really can't complain either. Just
Exactly.
very blessed.
It's good. God brought us to a very special event today.
Mm-hmm.
We got Miss Graves on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's all about you today, Mom.
it's definitely all about you.
okay.
This is your show. This is your show today. This is your world. We just living in it.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
So on the podcast, Mom, and because you listen to every single one, we ask people, what are some challenges that you've been through that brought you to where you are today?
Oh, wow. Are we like, how far back am I going?
You can go as far as back as you. Let's start childhood.
Ooh, childhood.
And I want y'all to really tune in because, I don't mean to cut you off, Mom, but,
That's okay.
just knowing my mom's story and everything that she's been through, just tune in. If you've been through a situation like this, I just want you to really lock in because anything is possible. But go ahead, Mom.
Okay. Let's see, childhood. I can't really say that, I had a rough childhood because I did not. I certainly had some obstacles and things, as we all do, growing up in our childhood, things that we wish, we maybe didn't experience, or when you've, seen how, like, I guess other people kind of came up and you think, oh, the grass is, greener over there, and come to find out, really is not.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say is that, as the saying goes, everything that you go through, I feel like gets you to a point, or, you go through certain things for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And were it not for those struggles or those obstacles, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like any, I guess, obstacles or challenges, I was raised by a single mother, as many of us, are. You obviously haven't experienced that. However, and, being raised by a single mother, I grew up a lot faster, I feel like, than I probably would have if there were two parents in the household.
For sure.
Because, I have siblings, but we didn't grow up in the same household. My sisters and my brother live with their, with their dad, and I live with, with your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of, I feel like, forced me to grow up a little bit early, a little faster than I probably would have liked. Meaning I took on a lot more responsibility at a younger age.
Right.
We joke about it sometimes about how you guys have, grew up a lot differently than I did. Some of the stories I've shared, and you're like, what?
Right.
How I just think about things in my childhood that, were it not for them, it would not have pushed me to be where I am now.
Right.
I don't regret anything. My mom, being a single mom, did the best that she could.
Right.
She was always there. I never, she was not an absent mother. She was always there. She did her best. But, it just also gave me a better appreciation for when I got older and had my own kids and just things that I wanted to do and kind of move a little bit differently to, make sure that you guys didn't have to kind of go through the same struggles that I went through growing up. And again, nothing detrimental, nothing crazy.
Right.
But I guess, again, just, because, for instance, my mom also is a nurse, a retired nurse like myself, and she worked crazy shifts.
Right.
She worked 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. So, I came home to an empty house. I learned at a very early age, how to cook, how to, how to keep a house, how to, my mom didn't play. When she came home, house better been right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, those are, I guess that's just kind of some of the things that I experienced early on. Even, with, like you guys, you get on the school bus, the way I grew up, I walked to school,
Right.
First grade, kindergarten, for long blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, didn't have cell phones, didn't have all these niceties that, that you guys have now.
Right.
And again, coming home and in my generation, that's where we were. We the latchkey kids, where you kind of had a key around your neck with, string, whatever, because when you came home, lots of times there was nobody there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's probably, like I said, if I'm going to go back to my childhood, kind of the earliest things that kind of come to mind, but nothing that I regret. I love the generation that I grew up in. I love the time that I grew up in. But you guys certainly wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. When she told me the story where she said she walked 3 miles to go do her laundry, I said, "Oh, in the mean streets of Trenton." By the way, this
shout out to Trenton,
we ain't Yardley,
my hometown.
like we ain't in Newtown. No, we're in Trenton. Like she probably done seen a couple crackheads on the corner, like just walk. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like what she said.
A bag of laundry.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was exactly 3 miles, but it was a long walk. And but that was the norm. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the things that we grew up doing now, parents will probably be brought up on charges, but
You did
what? Right. But that was the norm. And it was like, it wasn't even, it was a given that these are the things that were expected of you. Nobody told you like on Saturday morning, you need to get up, get the laundry cart, go get quarters. Cause again, back then there was nothing that was, electronic as far as payment and stuff like that. You had to have a roll of quarters, and down the street I would go, to the laundromat. And again, if anything went wrong, I didn't have a cell phone to call your grandmother. Like we had to figure it out, had to do what we had to do, So, good times. Good times. I don't regret any of it. But yeah, like I said, y'all would have been lost.
Yeah,
Right. Wow, so it sound like we ain't even went behind the ears yet.
That part. Yes, you're not.
For real.
Yeah.
It's very like when you but you used to say stuff. I'm like, I couldn't imagine like having the luxury of just, all right, I just walk out my room and go right to the laundry, like do my laundry the whole time.
There was none of that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, leaving the house, even leaving the house to do laundry, like to me is like I'm not because our outlet, you remember how the outlet, I was telling you the outlet don't work. I'm running an extension cord from across the house. I'm like, she's like, just go to the laundry. I'm like, I'm not going to the laundry rat. Like ain't nothing wrong with it. We used to go to the laundry rat, but we used to go to the laundry rat when we ain't have like a washer and dryer. We got one now. So I'm gonna do whatever I gotta possibly do to make so that amenity is I left that to pass. Like all right, like even if I'm like, I'll bring out a bucket and a washer before I go to the laundromat. I used to hate the laundromat. It used to be hot as hell in there. The dryer used to be hot on the outside, but the clothes would never dry on the inside. So they be like, dang, like I'm over, I'm like, I'm out here, I'm getting baked and my blanket's still wet. Like how the blanket's still wet and I'm out here sweating.
Right. Mine used the whole industrial dryer too. Yeah. That's it's funny. One story about my mom took us to me and my sister to the laundromat, right? Because we was so bougie, right? We always had
there like what the. All right, mom. All right, stop joking. All right, prank's over. Am I getting punked? Like, can we go back home now?
No, but there was one time I think either the washing machine or the dryer wasn't right. I can't remember which one it was. And
No,
we had
but
to go.
it was just the one day I feel like we just had so many clothes and we all needed to wash clothes and we was fighting to get into the laundry room. So she was like, you know what?
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
maybe
get
that
your
was
stuff. We going to the laundromat. I'm like, the laundromat, right? So we go in there. So you could tell this lady, she was there I think you know the story about the
Yeah.
tell. You could tell this lady's like a regular. Like she probably in there every Saturday and Sunday. So we in there, whatever. We bring our bags in there. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I feel like a freshman in college. Like this is all just like new to me. Like what's going on? So we get in there. So the lady like just like throwing like little subliminal messages, like saying like, yeah, I hate people that come in here that got their own washer and dryer and be washing their clothes. I'm like, but she kept saying it. So we was like, yo, is she trying to say something? Like what's going on with this lady? Like just
I'm like, yo, take one of them fresh socks and put it in your mouth. A sock in it.
Manny.
For real, like, dang. Like, there's always that person that's sitting there like this. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if she could sense that, like, we, you know.
Yeah, it was weird because she kept saying it. Be like, yo, like, what you want to do? What you want to do? Like, like,
what's the issue?
Yeah.
Like, dang, are we intruding or something? Like, dang, we ain't mean to come in your space. And
I do remember
my
that.
God,
Though.
but,
Yeah, it was crazy.
But no, I have another question for you, though, Mom. So
Yes.
having, what was the challenges of having 3 young kids because I think how were you when you had Nia?
So, I mean, I wasn't too young. I had you. I was 24 when I had you. I was 27 when I had Simone, and I was 29 when I had Nia.
Okay.
You know, when I had you, of course, you know, your first child, you know, it's like, oh, it's just, you know, just one child. Of course, as you have more kids, it gets to be a little bit more challenging. I think what really kind of challenged me is that's when I decided to go back to school, right? After I had your sister. And because when your dad and I decided to have kids, life was great. You know, Daddy was making, you know, good money at the job that he was at, and then he got laid off. And this was all during like the what was that? Like the housing crisis that happened way back when. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. And so at the time, you know, I was, I guess what you consider like a stay-at-home mom. I was, you know, just doing kind of little odds and ends things to help your dad as far as just making ends meet. But then he got laid off. And that honestly, for me, it was like an eye-opener. It was like, I guess, you know, like my aha moment because I got a little comfortable.
yeah.
Right. And, you know, I say that to any of the women who are watching this, you know, you always you never want to put yourself in a place of comfort where you feel like you got everything in the bag. You know what I'm saying? You always got to kind of have like a plan B.
Right.
And that for me was, like I said, an aha moment because at the time, you know, you were, let me see, this was back in 2008. So you would have been like 6, Simone would have been 3, and Nia was a baby. Nia was born in 07, you know, so she was a baby. And I just was like, whoa, you know, and it wasn't even so much the money, because I was like, you know, we'll do what we got to do, but it was, we ain't gonna have no insurance, you know, and I got a baby and I got a 6-year-old, you know. And so thankfully, you know, we worked some things out or whatever. But it got me to realize that, you know, you can't ever be comfortable. You always got to have a plan B. So, you know, I decided that at that time to go back to school. Nursing for me was kind of always a given because, like I said, you know, my mom is a retired nurse. I grew up watching my mom do her nurse thing. And I always had a passion for caring for people, you know, as that's what all nurses, I guess, say. But, you know, so I did. I was home one day and I was like, all right, I gotta help my husband in this situation, you know. And so I decided, like I said, to go back to school, and I enrolled in Lincoln Tech for their practical nursing program. And you know, that was a 2-year program, and it was a night program. And then after I started in the program for a little bit, I got a job working in the hospital. So I literally for 2 years, like I you know, I hate to say it this way, but I really didn't see y'all much for 2 years. You know, I was working at night. I was also going to school at night, and then I was going to school on the weekends, and it was just this crazy schedule for 2 straight years to try and get this done. And I stayed the course, thankfully, and I got it done. But you know, that was definitely challenging because as a mother, you kind of feel like, how did I get myself in a situation where now I'm missing things in my kid's life? You know, I'm sacrificing. But I knew it was for the greater good. You know what I mean? But it was, like I said, it was an eye opener for me that, you know, even with a husband, sometimes, you can't get too comfortable because you never know what life can bring. You never know, what's going to come. And, it just motivated me, because not having money and not, being able, I don't know, some people, I guess money is not a motivator, but it's always been one for me,
Nah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
me
But,
either.
and just to be able to provide for your children, and I never ever want, shout out to your dad, my husband. We've been married now, this July will be 25 years.
Shout out, Pops.
Shout
Shout
out.
out. Yes.
Hey, 25 years.
Woo,
Yo,
yes.
take notes, y'all. For real, y'all be 2 weeks in. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Y'all on y'all second
2
date,
weeks.
like,
Not
I
2
don't know if I
weeks.
can do this.
25 years we've been married. We'll be married. And just also wanting to, you never, at least for me, want to put your partner in a position where everything is on them. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to finances, right? So, again, it just kind of motivated me and pushed me to make sure that moving forward, we're always kind of contributing in that way. And so, that's what I did. And then fast forward, years after that, I went back and got my RN license. And I just, keep going, not looking back,
Right.
So, but, to answer your question, just, I think as women, we want to believe we can do it all. Cause so much of society tells us that, sometimes that we can't, that you got to pick, if you're going to be a great mother, that means that, you can't have a career. And I think that's,
It's not true.
it's not true, but that's what a lot of women have been taught to believe. Because again, there is that, for me at least, and I know for a lot of women, there is that guilt factor where you feel like, if I'm too committed to my career, that means I'm not committed enough to my family and to my children. So it's like trying to find that, that happy medium, right? But also too having time for yourself, because, some days you do. You feel like, you don't know which way to go first. But it's all about just kind of finding that balance and sometimes making time for yourself, because the best thing you can give, I feel like, to your children and to your family, is time to yourself, right? I can't be there for you. I can't be there for your sisters, for your dad, if I'm not pouring into myself first,
Exactly.
Because if that's the case, you're just going to kind of get my sloppy leftovers, and you can feel that, you can sense that, you know what I'm saying, when somebody's not there fully for you. So that's just kind of, I feel like, one of the biggest things that I've had to, kind of just work through and make sure that I'm always there for you guys completely. And if that, what that looks like, again, is for me, being there for myself. And sometimes that means, I'll remove myself. You know what I'm saying? If I'm in one of those moods and I'm like, not today, and I don't know about tomorrow either, I'll just kind of remove myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't ever want to be out of character. And not that you guys can't see your mom, you know what I'm saying, in different moods and different, because that's life. That's normal. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like sometimes as mothers, we have to always remember that we have to put ourselves first, because if not, everything else is going to kind of,
the cookie will crumble.
Exactly.
And I will say, like, over the years, you've done a great job, like, letting, like, me and Simone and Nia know, like, listen, like, you've always, like, reassured us, like, I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because I have to. Like,
Exactly.
I'm not, like, that's why, and I even said, I forgot who, I think it was the episode with Nate. I was saying, like, my mom used to say, like, listen, I got to get some rest because I got to go get up and work. And, y'all made it look good. Like, you know what I'm saying? I never once, like, my phone ain't never been cut off. Like, you feel me? I've always had clothes on my, you know what I'm saying? Like, Christmas was always great. Like, Christmas really felt like, they really made me believe,
Exactly. That's that grinding.
Yeah, for the kids out there. But, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, had me thinking that, you know what I'm saying, was real. So I'm like, it was really, just like, and then as I got older, they explained to me, like, yo, like, we had to do this, and this. I'm like, whole time, like, yo, I'm like blinded by it, because I'm like, you would never be able to tell. Like,
saying.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just,
And go ahead.
oh, you good.
No, I was going to say, and that's definitely, a blessing, and things that, I never want you or your siblings to ever take for granted, right? Because, like I said, growing up in my childhood, looking at other families and thinking, oh, they got it so much better and blah, 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 but you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and you never know what sacrifices people have made to get to, kind of where they are in life. People just kind of see, like, the outward appearance, not realizing that, this has been years and years of me, just doing what I got to do to kind of get to this point. And not for nothing, but, nothing was handed to me. You know what I'm saying? And I've had a lot of setbacks. You know what I'm saying? When I initially decided to go to nursing school, I had just had you. And pass a couple courses, and then, you got to be a little bit more of a challenge because you never like to sleep at night. And it was a lot, you know what I'm saying? I remember just being up with you at night and everything. And I failed, and I thought that was the end of the world.
My
You know
bad.
what I'm saying? No, but at that time it was, I say it like this, everything happens for a reason. There's a season for everything. And had I not gone the route that I went, I would not be where I am today, right? Because I always knew I was going to be a nurse. I never really had a dream of like owning my own business. But when the opportunity kind of presented itself, I was like, hey, let me get this a shot. Worst thing that I can do is fail, and then I'll,
Exactly. And you already done did it so many times and succeeded. It's like, if you go for it, you fail. Is what it is.
That's right. That's right. So, and, in the time in between when I first initially started, my career and I went to nursing school, that was way back in 2003, right? I didn't become a LPN until 2011. I didn't become a registered nurse, as you know, till last year.
Right.
So you're talking a 21-year span, right? But I needed that time. You know what I'm saying? Like everything fell in place the way it should have because, I'll tell my age, I don't mind. I'm 47, right?
You don't look like it.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, fellas. But, in order for me to have a home care agency, actually two home care agencies that, your father and I run together, I couldn't have done that back when I was in my 20s and my 30s. I needed those years of experience working as a nurse, out in the field, working in different facilities, just learning nursing in general, right? Because, I'm sure as you know too, like you guys have both, you work in a trade, you work, you went to trade school. They teach you the basics. You don't actually start to learn nothing until you get out on the floor, right?
Exactly.
Until you actually get that hands-on experience, right? And so if I had not had all these years of nursing and clinical skills and just the support of other nurses, I would not be in a position now to own my own business.
Right.
And so it's all to the glory of God that things happened the way that they did. Of course, at the time you don't see it that way, right?
Right.
We see it as like, oh, why? Woe is me? I thought I had it all planned out, but sometimes you got to get out your own way and let God lead you, because your way ain't always the right way.
Right.
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's and like you said, like just like you never made any excuses neither. Like
No.
it wasn't like it was either get rich or die trying. You know what I'm saying? So, and like, do you feel like say if me and Simone and Nia weren't in the picture, do you feel like you would have been as motivated? Like, do you feel like you would have had a different wake up call? Like, just imagine if you didn't have any kids and you, I don't know, we're in your 30s at this point. Like, because you said you realized when you was 24 when you had me, like, I had to go back to school. Like, do you feel like you would have still had that drive, or do you feel like,
Perhaps, but maybe not as intense, because I think another part of that too comes with the feeling that you always want to make your kids proud of you, right? And so that's for me is another motivator that when you think of your mom or when you think of your father, you don't think of us and with like I don't know, sadness in your eyes or like,
you always want to see him as a superhero.
Right, exactly, right? Even though, we're not, we make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. There's no manual for being a parent and prayerfully one day you guys will experience that as well, but I also too, like I said, when I kind of sat one day and thought about it, I'm like, these little ones are going to get older one day, right? And what am I leaving them, right? What legacy am I going to leave them as far as just, number one, being a good person, being a good human being, but also two, working hard and working towards something, right? Whatever that is, and I've told you, everybody's not meant to go to college, right? That's why trade schools exist, right? And so regardless of what it is that you decide you want to do, with your life, just be good at it, right? Take the time to learn your craft, to perfect your craft, right? And so, for me, it was more so, like I said, I also wanted to be able to give you guys something to kind of look up to and just to kind of be proud of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even if I was, I don't know, on a garbage truck. I don't know. Maybe at one point I'd make it to the front of the truck. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. One day you're gonna be driving that mug.
Right.
You hanging off the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Garbage juice spilled on you.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I those two things. So whether I had kids or not, having kids, obviously, too. Like I said, that was one of the things that kind of really motivated me too. Is I wanted you guys to be proud of me at some point, and say, oh, my mom, she did the damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
And I do still to this day.
Yeah, you definitely do. John don't never stop praising you.
Yeah, especially on here. Like I've always give my mom cause like I wouldn't be where I'm at today with that. I feel like like when you have some like people say, oh, I had nobody to look up to. Like you definitely had somebody to look, whether if they impacted your life in a negative way or they impacted your life in a positive way. You had somebody,
and even if you don't know,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Like, you could be walking down the street one day, you can be sitting on the bench, and somebody come and give you words of wisdom. You like, damn, like.
And listen, I'm gonna say something about that. That is never ever by accident, right?
Never.
When somebody blesses you in a way like that, just what we might consider just by chance, that is definitely a divine intervention, right?
Exactly.
And I'll because like I said before, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? And whatever that reason may have been was for you at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And it could be something that won't actually impact you for weeks, days, years later, but there's always a reason why. You could be in a grocery store. I know, like, sometimes I've been just out in a public place or whatever, and somebody will kind of like just minister to me. I might have been having a bad day, and prime example, I was at the doctor's office the other day, and I was sitting in the lobby, and I was on the phone, and this older lady, I was into my conversation, so I wasn't really paying like my, I guess, perimeter or any mind, and I see her, but I'm like, I'm not really paying her mind, and then I look up, and she's like, "You're beautiful." And she wanted to make a point. Like, she saw I was on the phone, you know what I'm saying? And she kept walking, and she was saying it. And then I looked up, and I see her mouth, and like, "You're so beautiful." And I was just like, and I'm at the doctor's office, right? Nobody really likes being at the doctor's office, if you don't have to. And just in that moment, I was like, wow, that just really kind of uplifted my spirit, that she kind of just went out her way to make sure, one, that she said it, and two, that I seen and heard her, So, anytime, those type of experiences, people kind of come into your life just kind of out of the blue, just understand that that's definitely not by accident, Something even, like I said, is just as small as somebody is saying you're beautiful, you know what I'm saying? It's meant for you for a reason,
right?
You know?
For real. Like, I feel like people be thinking, like, when somebody says, oh, God sent that person to you, people be expecting them to be dressed in so-called white, sounding like Morgan Freeman.
Right.
Like, no, it's not always going to be like that. It could be just somebody. It could be a homeless person on the street.
There
you could
you
be
go.
giving somebody. God put it in your mind, like, you never stop to give somebody $1. Like, all right, I'm gonna stop giving them $1. You be like, thank you. Like, thank you. You don't understand what you just did for me. Like,
Exactly.
God bless you. Just that alone, like that, just like good words uplift people.
Yep.
Like, even just her just calling you beautiful, her calling you beautiful. She never know. You could have been in there. You could have been contemplating, well, God forbid, you could have been contemplating about taking your own life.
There you go.
About something just something just as simple as, oh, you're beautiful. It's like, damn, like, there's
Could change your whole
exactly could change everything.
Yep. So true.
You might have been
So
feeling
true.
ugly that day.
I probably was.
Like you said, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It really just uplifts you and just brings good spirits to you. So
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard to find people out there like that nowadays because
Right.
the world is just, like I say all the
The
time,
world's
so
full of
negative.
negativity.
Yeah.
So
And I think
negative.
too, especially just in the days and times we're living in now, we're always kind of skeptical of people and their intentions, right? And I feel like, that's probably just our fight or flight, right? That kind of kicks in, which you should always have, but, in the day now, we're, in this day and age that, you got to be skeptical of everything. Text messages, emails, you know what I'm saying? People on the street, you know what I'm saying? So, but I'd like to think that there are more good people in the world than there are bad, right? And that, we're meant to endure more, good encounters than we are bad, but don't let your guard down either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, and like, not to cut you off, but to piggyback on that, it's like, I feel like also it's like how you take stuff too. Not like
Yeah.
saying like, oh, you take stuff too serious. Like even if you're thinking like, oh, somebody just said that. Like even if like somebody walked up like, yo, like I like your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you think they trying to be funny or whatnot,
Right.
like just go about your day. Be like, oh, I appreciate you. Don't take it as a negativity. At the end of the day, even if they had malicious intent, at the end of the day, it's how you took it.
Exactly.
So like whole time they sitting there thinking like, damn. Will probably thought I was really complimenting them. But at the end of the day, it's like you going about your day whistling.
Right. So at that
your
point,
head
joke's
high.
on them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
At that point,
Exactly.
the
Killing
joke's
them
on
with
them.
kindness.
Exactly.
Right.
You got to kill
Right.
people with kindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
People just be so rude nowadays, and I feel like you've always told me, you know, just treat everybody how you want to be treated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you know, I you know, that stuck with me. Now I feel like that's why, you know, sometimes people, you know, not that they take my kindness for a weakness, but it's just like people don't know, like, you know, just because I'm being nice
Mhm.
doesn't mean if you treat me wrong, I'm just gonna let you keep, you know, treating me wrong. Like
Right.
you showed spurts of where, like, you know, I've seen, you know, my 23 years of life, I've seen, you know, when people have, you know, done you wrong and, you know, you've done nothing but be nice to them, and now, you know, they have to pay a price now for, you know, you being nice. Like,
Mhm.
so it's just
Karma.
pretty much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I've seen my mom. I ain't gonna lie. I see my mom give her all to, you know, strangers. Like, you know, just that's just the person she is, and I feel like I get that a lot from you. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? I've you know expressed, like, you know, when you went back to school, and you know we was helping Auntie out with Zori and stuff like that, and you know we were watching her, and it got to a point where I was like, all right, you know, it was like, and it was nothing I was never like mad about. Like I love Zori. Like I've always, you know, wanted to step up and, you know, just help my mom out. Like, you know, you do so much for us. Like, you know, why, you know, it don't hurt to, or, you know, feel me, just give back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and that, I feel like that was a blessing too. Like, you know, I build a relationship. Like I've learned how to, even though I don't have any kids, I've learned some way how to be a father in a way to prepare me for, you know, certain stuff like that. So it was just like little things like that I can really just appreciate. You know what I'm saying?
Because, you know, even I feel like sometimes even with everything that we have, you know, to do, or, you know, what we consider just like, kind of like everything that life brings at us, you know, I still feel like God still blesses you to be a blessing to others, irregardless. You know what I'm saying? And you know, no matter what you might feel like you got going on, there's always, I promise you, you ain't even got to look far. You can look across the street.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? There's always somebody who has it worse,
Right.
right? And so if you're ever in a position to help someone, you know, I don't care how long it might seem it's going to take, you know, whatever the case may be, do it, you know, and do it with, you know, a cheerful heart. Don't do it with exactly.
Like, come on, bro.
Right.
Move the couch, bro.
Right,
like, like, come on,
Right.
open the damn door, yo. Like, come on, like you gotta, like, you feel me? You gotta do it. Like, just
Yes.
like, cause it's not gonna. You gotta think about it. It's not gonna last forever. At the end of this, 24 hours in a day.
Right.
You telling me you think you about to be sitting here for 24 hours straight, moving the couch,
Right.
helping somebody move a fridge? Just do it and get out the way.
Right.
And listen, I'm guilty of that sometimes myself.
Yeah.
Like I'll be stopping about it. Like my mom would tell me, be like, "Oh, could you help me do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got you."
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be like, all right. Sometimes it takes a little longer than you expected.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when you're done, you're like, damn, now you sitting there like, dang, I feel like an asshole. Like, you feel me? I was just doing it with, and they not gonna say nothing to you because you helping them. And obviously they notice, but they're not gonna be like, oh, why you doing it with the attitude? At the end of the day, it's like they asking you for a favor.
Exactly.
And you doing it. So they don't want to like be all like you just gotta, like she said, just do it. You gotta do it with a good heart.
Right. And without any expectation in return.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, because if you're doing it that way, you know, don't do it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At that point, you're just gonna be sitting there like, all right, I'm gonna see you later. I put the couch over there.
I like that.
Yeah, I put the couch over there. I'm probably about to go get something to eat, but I don't even got no money on me.
Right. One of them type things. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, so just
But,
whatever you do, always do it, you know, with a cheerful heart, and with no expectations in return. You know what I'm saying? Because the universe will take care of you. I promise that. I promise.
So I wanted to ask, John had already touched on it before, and you just touched on it a little bit. You said, like your intent was never to, like, you never really had an intent to start your own business.
Yes.
So when was it that it like clicked to you? Like you were like, yeah, like I don't want to work for nobody else.
Oh,
I wanna do my own thing.
Glad you asked it. I like hearing your story.
And I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna sit back for this one.
yeah, what had you what had you sitting there? Whether it was that night when you were cooking dinner for the kids, when you were cooking for the family, when you were just driving, when you were on your way to work, when you were at work. Like, I don't know if you was just like, yo, bye.
Today's the day.
I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm out of here.
yeah. So it's a compilation of a few things I would actually say. But okay, so what happened was, this was the end of 2019, right before, like November, December of 2019, before COVID, obviously, a few months before COVID, before we knew COVID was even going to be a thing. And anybody who's a nurse who has worked in, I guess, healthcare, PTOT, we always have a lot of jobs, right? Show me a nurse with one job and I will show you somebody who's not a nurse, right? But, because typically, nurses will have like kind of like our main job and then we'll have some things on the side. A lot of nurses will work for agencies. Whether you're working in a hospital, home care, at one point I was a school nurse, so I've done a lot of things in nursing over these, last 15 years or so. So what happened was I had gone on an interview for another one of those other jobs and it was in the city, let's just say that. And the experience was like mind blowing for me, right? Because it was for a home care agency and, it was just a very unprofessional experience, okay? Now, prior to this, I had always kind of toyed with the idea of like maybe having a home care agency because I had worked for a lot of agencies myself. And working for a lot of different agencies, you get to see how how agencies are run a lot differently, right? From, agency A, agency B, right? What A does, B doesn't, that type of thing. And so, but you also kind of get a knack for like, yeah, well, I wouldn't do this if I was the boss type thing, right?
You doing it with like you said, do what?
Right, exactly.
I wouldn't do it, but okay.
right, or just kind of the way like things are run, or just kind of like the culture of the agency or whatever. And so, anywho, so I had gone on an interview. It was a very unprofessional experience, to the point where I didn't even stay for the interview. And I've never done that in all my years of ever going anywhere for an interview, filling out an application, and everything. I didn't even fill out the application. Okay. The young lady who was supposed to interview me wasn't there. So someone else was kind of filling in. She's like, oh, she should be here soon. And there was like, no offense to Biggie, love Biggie, but like Biggie was playing like in the waiting area. It was just very unprofessional, right? Somebody was sleeping over.
These for dinner.
Somebody was sleeping over in a corner. Another guy was on the phone, cussing somebody out about his daughter's prom dress. It was crazy. And so I was looking around like, I know I'm not here right now.
She was at the Philadelphia Zoo.
It felt like it. So anyway, short story long, I told the young lady, I said, you know what? I'm actually not going to go through with this. I said, but thanks for the opportunity. And she, are you sure? Oh, I am sure. So I got in the car. I called your dad. And I said, you know what? That was literally like I had an epiphany that day. And I said, you know what? If they can have an agency, then I know I probably can, right? And so with that, went home, still was working 2 other jobs, right? That was not going to be like my bread and butter, so it wasn't a big deal. And I just kind of started putting pen to paper. I started doing research. I started Googling stuff. And then right around January, I got to the point where I was smart enough to know I didn't know what I didn't know and that I needed legal representation. And so I decided to hire an attorney who specialized in, startups and stuff like that. Now, fast forward, now COVID has hit, right? And so your dad, at the time where my husband worked, his company that he worked for, he was traveling a lot, right? He was always flying in and out of not the country, in and out of different states and stuff. And so when that happened, he had to sit still. He couldn't travel anymore. So we were able to start coming up with a plan, right? Initially, this was just going to kind of be my thing, right? But then I said to my husband, I said, because my husband has a corporate background. He's always worked in HR. He's, ran call centers and stuff like that. And I'm like, it just kind of made sense that I would kind of run the medical side of things and he would kind of run the HR payroll type stuff, right? He was a little reluctant in the beginning because he was like, babe, this is your thing. I don't want to kind of, I don't want to take away from what you're doing. And I was like, no, you're my partner. You're my husband. I want you to help me with this, So, and I'm going to be honest, entrepreneurship, as you can imagine, is not nothing to play with, okay? It ain't for the weak. It ain't nothing to take light. My husband and I had lots of sleepless nights.
She was drinking wine. I'm like, you drinking wine? What's going on?
Hey.
Sorry.
I had a couple glasses of wine every now and again. But, so to answer your question, that was kind of what prompted me to start my own agency. I had no idea where this was going to go. I had no idea, you know, how things were going to kind of pave out. But what I didn't know was that felon was not an option, right? That's what I did know.
Talk heavy.
Because we, you know, just being transparent, you know, we kind of cashed out like our 401k. Like we did what we had to do because, you know, there ain't no money trees in my background. I mean, in my backyard, right? And so, you know, everything that we did, we had to fund ourselves. You know, nobody was, and it's crazy because at that time, you know, people were getting all these PPP loans and all this kind of stuff, and we're like, oh, okay. But there was some like stipulation that like your first payroll run had to be like March 31st, right? We didn't actually start we didn't actually get our license until like April 30th. Right, I didn't take our first client until June. So, you know, when we like any kind of startup money, we didn't qualify for. So we literally had to come up with all this ourselves, right? But we stayed the course. You know, we got through COVID. Fast forward now, 5 years later, I'm gonna just shout out what the businesses are, right? Because I know you mentioned them kind of as your sponsors because we do sponsor you guys. So Josinia Senior Home Care, which is the name is made up of my children's names, John, Simone, and Nia, right? Josinia, Senior Home Care. And with that agency, we provide non-medical home care to seniors in their homes. So anything from bathing, grooming, dressing, assistance with meal preparation, medication reminders, you know, transportation and errand assistance, pet care, you know, anything that I kind of describe it as like taking care of grandmama and grandpa, right? If you can assist grandmama and grandpa with their day-to-day, that's kind of what we do, right? And then we decided last year, because oftentimes what happens is any of our clients who have more complex care needs, now if let's say if they need like skilled care, if they need a nurse, if they need physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech or social worker, we then had to refer them to a different agency. And so it just kind of made sense for us to expand and now have a skilled home care agency as well. So we got our license for that last year. And we're in the process now of you know, getting that up and running off the ground. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how all that happened. It literally was me, like I said, kind of having that idea in the back of my mind, but going to that interview that day. And that's why I say
that did it.
Exactly. Nothing ever happens by chance. There's always a reason. And I know for a fact that God ordered my steps to that place that day, even though nothing came of it because I didn't, you know, obviously it never worked for them. But there was a reason for me to go there that day.
Exactly.
And my sister, your Aunt Rakisha, I kind of had a conversation with her because, you know, you get this idea and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, but how am I going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And my sister, you know, bless her heart, she was up visiting that weekend and she was like, sis, do it. She reached, I kid you not. And, you know, and I will never, ever forget this. I'm always going to be indebted to my sister because many were on this journey with us in the beginning that are no longer with us on this journey, and that's okay because not everybody is meant to go with you on your journey. You understand what I'm saying? But my sister reached in her purse and she was like, sis, here's a couple dollars. She was like, I know it ain't much, but y'all got this. She was like, step out on faith and do what y'all got to do. And when that was like, all right, that's all I needed to hear. You know what I'm saying? With her, my husband, God, we did what we had to do. And again, don't get me wrong. You know, it's not for the weak. It's not for nothing to be played with because you do. You had those sleepless nights and you're like, ooh, you know. But
it all pays out.
It all pays out, and it's definitely been worth it. I wouldn't trade entrepreneurship for anything in the world. You know, for as many things that it keeps you up at night for, there's a lot of things, obviously perks that come along with it, right? You are your own boss. You know, and yeah, it's just, but again, going back to what I said earlier, you know, I could not have done this back in my 20s, my 30s. Right. You know what I'm saying? I needed to take that journey that I took to get here. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the experiences that I've gained over the years working in nursing definitely helps me now where I am. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because now I have other nurses in the building that work with me, but for a long time, it was just me, right? And people looking at me for the answers. You know what I'm saying? If I hadn't had years of experience working as a nurse, how I'm going to lead and you know what I'm saying? Right. If I don't know what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you'd be able to diagnose like, so I'd be like, I don't know, I'd be having like an itch in my throat. She'd be like, yeah, you probably got a colonoscopy overrized. I'm like, what?
And you know your mom. I'm
And
a
she
nurse,
break
but
it down.
I'm not an alarmist. I'm not one for, I think my kids probably been to the ER maybe 5 times in their whole life,
nah, for
all
real,
combined, right? Because I'll
probably because my dad didn't feel like paying for it, but we had ginger ale though, so we was straight.
Nah, for real, that ginger ale. That ginger ale.
ginger ale is a lifesaver, ain't it?
Yeah,
but,
for real.
Yeah.
But to the ladies out there listening, like, this is a prime example of a black entrepreneurs. You feel me? Just doing her thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. Don't make excuses. You feel me? You're gonna run into you're gonna fall and scrape your knee. But that's why they make bandages. You put the bandage on, you keep on going. You know what I'm saying? It's never in life. And I feel like, that's you and dad is something like nothing in life is gonna be easy. Like when I got laid off, like, like I'm human. Like we cried. Like I cried it out. Like, it was a hard pill to really swallow. Yeah. But you told me, like, son, like, it's gonna be okay. Like we're gonna get through this. Like, and we did. Like, and we're here now. Like, you know what I'm saying? We still got mountains to climb over, but we're gonna get there. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all for, just the support. Like that's too, like when you have support, it's a lot of things that you can do with having support. A lot of, just like, and a lot of it too is just reassurance. Like they could be feeding you BS, but really no, it's like but they're making you believe yourself. You feel me? And once you have people that, can make you believe in yourself, there's a lot of things that you can really, do. So I just really appreciate you and dad for, always being my backbone. Like I can't, now I be up at night just thinking, God, like the parents that I have. Like I'm not trying to get emotional here neither, but it's really just like I said, I hear other people's stories and I see, just even like some family members. I'm like, wow, like I'm mad because the shoes I try to buy out of stock the whole time. Like, you feel me? Like there's other people that got worse problems than I do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's other things that I really could be complaining about. So I really just, I feel like me and Manny and all of us sitting right here were put here for a reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, as we, go through with our journey, building our podcast and stuff like that, there's other things that we talked about that we want to reach out to, like, helping, going back out to, local, like, hoods and stuff and like giving back, stuff that there's a lot of stuff that we didn't start this because, we thought it'd be a cool thing. I mean, it is cool.
It
right?
is.
But the bottom line is, I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean to cut you off. But the bottom line is, there's always a bigger purpose, right? And sometimes you just got to kind of get out your own way. You know what I'm saying? Because, when God leads you to do something, you do it, right? You don't question it. You know what I'm saying? You don't hem and haw about it. You understand what I'm saying? And especially when there's a greater good. Right? When it's for the betterment of other people. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll be blessed, right? And I always tell you that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I stress, too, don't ever do something with any type of expectation in return because it's sure to fail, right? If you are doing something because you think it's going to, bring you something in the long run, or you think it's going to, or it's like an automatic kind of payback that's going to come from that, then your mind is not in the right spot and you're going to be disappointed every time. You understand what I'm saying?
That good karma's going to pass right over you.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and how you were saying as far as like having support, I don't really care where your support comes from. You know what I'm saying? Because I know sometimes, as a young man, right? Y'all don't like talking to your parents about certain things, and I can understand that. I can appreciate that. Especially talking to your mom, right? And I tell, am I allowed to call you your nickname? Are you sure?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is my Scoot. Call me Scoot. So I tell Scoot all the time, that, whether it's me, whether it's whoever, talk to somebody. You don't got to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? I'd like you to talk to me, but I understand that there's just certain subject matters that you don't feel comfortable talking to your mom about, but talk to somebody, whomever that is that you trust. Not no knucklehead, you know what I'm saying? But talk to somebody. Don't keep things bottled up, because one thing's for certain and two things for sure, life is going life. You know what I'm saying? Whether you get up out the bed in the morning or whether you decide to stay under the covers, life is still going life. Anything that is going on is not going to just go away because you decide to ignore it. What's going to happen is when you do try, when you do come to face it, it's just going to be 10 times worse, right? So, if there is any lesson that I would give to any of the, you younger generation is that, if you're going through something, find somebody to talk to about it. Find support. Stay grounded, right? Don't let your head get too big where you think like nothing can happen to you. Because one thing I have learned in life is that you never know what's around the corner, right? And I will share, this little bit for anybody who is listening, who might be going through something and feeling like you're kind of at the end of your rope. And I know this is not kind of where we were going with this, but I just feel like God has kind of placed this on my heart to talk about. Our family has gone through 2 tragedies in the last 10 years, right? My nephew was murdered at the age of 22 back in 2015. Turn around 8 years later, my other nephew was murdered. Never thought, right, that would ever have happened twice, right? And when I say nephews, I'm not talking about play nephews. I'm not talking about, my girlfriend's son who was raised as my nephew. I'm talking about these are my sisters who we have the same mother and father, right? Their oldest sons were murdered. And their murderers are still at large to this day, right? And so as a family, of course it brings you closer together, but you always, as much as you're not supposed to question God and like why things happen, that's a hard one not to question. Like why, you know what I'm saying? And I know as my son, you're my only son, that's a lot for you to deal with, right? Losing your 2 older cousins in such a tragic way, not one, but then 2, right? Both of who you were pretty close to, right? And so, something like that definitely could cause one to just kind of give up, right? Or say like, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? But you got to keep going.
Got to keep going.
You know what I'm saying?
Life
At the end of the day, exactly. And you have your moments, but you got to keep going, And so I just kind of share that because you never know what people are going through, and as much as you can, try to be kind when you see people, you know what I'm saying? Even sometimes you might be in traffic, somebody might, blow you off or, you never ever know. Now, don't get me wrong, there are just some people out there like that, right? But you never know what people might be going through in life or what kind of causes people to do what they do, right? Or when you feel like somebody's wronged you or when you feel like somebody's been distant or, whatever the case may be, just try and always lead with kindness and from a place of like, you know what? Let me just give this person some grace because I never know what could be going on that they're not sharing with me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But yeah, we gonna make it through.
Yeah. I feel like it just takes take a couple seconds to think. People be so quick to react with anger. I feel like that's the fastest. I feel like that's just the quickest route people take. That's the fastest emotion. It's like people just love to go to anger and like just take a second to really think.
Right.
Like you don't know, like the person that cut you off, he could be rushing. His child could be getting born right now.
This is what I'm saying.
He could have just got a call. Oh, his kid, his mother, his wife, his brother, anybody just got into an accident. You got a call. It could be at home. Just somebody's in the house right now with a gun. You never know.
That's right.
Like the whole time we thinking like he trying to race.
He just trying to.
Whole time exactly.
Like, now I gotta catch up.
Exactly. It's like whole time it's like, nah, I'm not in. But I let bro pass me.
Right.
Like yeah, but it's like
whole time you're not even worried about you.
Like,
right.
You never
because
know.
we take things so personal, right? And when you think about it, even in that scenario, you don't even know the person. You don't know their name.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So why am I taking this personal, right? Like, oh, you just cut me off. Oh no, now it's on. Like
exactly.
You don't even y'all couldn't pick each other out in the lineup if you had to, right? Other than like a license plate. That's the only kind of thing you know about each other. So exactly.
Even then, you'll be like, yo, ain't no way you just cut me off. By the time they take that left, you go to that right, you back to singing the song you was just singing. Like you ain't even know what's going on.
Right. It's not that serious.
I'm searching for a real love.
Yeah, then you sitting there like, I was just screaming about something. What was I screaming about?
Exactly.
Like exactly.
And when you think about it, like, all right, in 2 hours and 2 days and 2 weeks and 2 months and 2 years, is this going to even matter? Right. And if the answer is no, keep it pushing.
Exactly. I'm actually glad you said that because recently, like the past couple months, because like stuff will be bothering me. I'll be like, damn, I don't know, like out of nowhere, like I'm so glad you said that because out of nowhere, it's like I just been like, yo, like in an hour from now, am I even like, am I gonna be pissed off about this? Am I even gonna remember what I'm worrying about? Like,
that's right.
Like there's certain things that you just gotta let fall in line. There's certain things you gotta let go. There's certain things you just gotta cross that. You gotta cross that bridge when you get there. At the end of the day, you're just gonna worry yourself.
Yep. And listen, that is definitely stress and stress will take you out of here before anything else. Stress will take you out of here before the worst, disease, cancer, whatever you might, you might want to compare it to. Stress is a killer. It is. And, if you don't, manage that and learn how to cope when you have stressful situations, it will make you sick. It will cause you to age quicker than you're supposed to. This has been proven. I'm not, this is not my opinion. This is a fact.
You could just see it on people's face. Like,
absolutely.
Like one dude one time, I'm like, I forgot where I was at. I'm like, how old are you? He's like 36. I'm like, you look older than my dad. Like,
you didn't tell the man that, did you?
No. But I'm thinking in my head.
Okay.
I'm like,
okay.
I'm like, I might have been at.
Some of it could be genetics too, but
I'm just like 30. I'm thinking like they lying, but no, that is a true thing. Like you can really you could tell. Because they say health is wealth.
Absolutely.
So you could tell, like...
you can look at somebody... If somebody... Put it this way. If somebody has... And no offense to anybody who smokes, whatever floats your boat. But you can look at somebody and if they've been smoking, say, 5, 10 plus years, you can spot a smoker out in the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? For one, the smell, right?
Right.
They always kind of smell like smoke. 2, their skin says it, their nails say it, their teeth says it, their hair says it. You know what I'm saying? So, but we sometimes, because we can't see stress, we kind of, think it's not a big thing, or we kind of downplay it, or we don't realize like how significant stress is when it comes to your health and your wealth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it can definitely take you out of
That
here.
stress will put you in an early grave.
There you go.
I ain't gonna lie, there's some people that be like, younger than me, looking like they got like they got 10 more minutes left to live.
Yes, and you're like, yo, chill.
You said you was what, 28? Like,
Right.
I ain't gonna lie, I thought you was
48.
I thought you was ready to go. But definitely, like I also want to touch on one thing she said before we wrap up. Like you said, like young men like us. Listen, this is how I see it. Because sometimes I catch myself thinking of the worst, just like, because my mom, she'd be like, yo, like, she'd be calling me, she'd be like, Manny, I'm like, what's up? She'd be like, I was just checking if he was alive. Like, I'm like, what you mean? She'd be like, I ain't talked to you in like 2-3 days. I'm like, damn.
2 or 3 days.
I'm like, come on, mom.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
yeah, I just be
You
on
in
the
your zone.
mood. I'll be on like you guys, any of my sisters, like my brothers, like they'll be like, yo, man, you be in like your own lane. Like I kind of just be on the move like all the time. So I'd be like, damn, I be thinking. And I'd be sometimes I also be thinking, like my mind just be in different places. I'd be thinking like, dang, I ain't talking to my mom. So like I ain't talking to my mom. Then I'm like, now I'm thinking about it. Now I just got done saying that to her. I'm like, now I'm like, call her 2-3 days in a row. Then it'll go back to not talking to her 2-3 days in a row. It's not on purpose or not malicious. Like, damn, like I could be getting a call. Even if I miss a call, like one of my siblings or something, like I'm like thinking of worse. I'm like, dang, like God forbid, like there could have been an accident or something. And now I'm sitting there thinking like, dang, like that's not. Just off the thought, I'm sitting there crying. I'm like, yo, what's wrong? I'm like, yo, don't worry about it. It's just I'm thinking, but like you said, like we don't want to talk to y'all. Like not that we don't want to, it's just we don't like we're not thinking like I'm not by sitting in my mom's arms and talk. Like you know what I mean? But
sometimes you need that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, we still y'all babies. So
because listen, we'll always be. Y'all gonna always be our baby. I don't care if you're 65 and I'm however old I'll be. Y'all gonna always be our babies. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because as a mother, especially, right? You think like when your kids are small, oh my gosh, you got so much to do and blah 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 blah. But the real work begins when it gets to this point, right? Because now I can't protect you like I used to be able to, right? As when you walk out that front door, it's by the grace of God every day that you're coming back. You understand what I'm saying? And those are the things that moms are more in tune with than you guys are. Because at this age, because I was your age, of course, and you think you're going to live forever at this age, right? You think you're untouchable. You think, when you walk out the door, everything kind of gets out the way. And we know that that's not reality, right? And it's sometimes not what you're going to go out there and do, but what might be done to you that keeps us worrying. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. But even what you said as far as just calling your mom, we're all guilty of that. You know what I'm saying? Even at my age, you know what I mean? I know I don't call my mom even enough. And it ain't no excuse, and not even to say, oh, I was busy.
Yeah.
Okay. There ain't that kind of busyness in the world.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
What I'm doing.
Takes maybe 10 seconds to make a phone call and say, hey, I just want to say I love you. I'll talk to you later. Boom.
Exactly.
I think where it comes in is that that 10-second call ain't going to be 10 seconds when you call your mom, right?
It's like, I be trying to like, Hey, mom, what's up? I just want to say what's up. You good? I'm like, yeah, all right, bye. I love you. Like, what you wait? I'm like,
Right, exactly.
I ain't gonna hang up with
'Cause you
my
know
mom while
why?
she's talking.
Because she got 3 days to make up.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. I ain't gonna hang up on her while she's talking. So it's
Right.
like, I'm gonna talk. Even if I'm about to put the phone down out here, I'm like, dang.
She,
like,
and,
yeah,
she,
mom,
and she like in another thing.
I'm like, what's up?
Right.
She's like, yeah, when you go, I'm like, yeah, I got you. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I got you. I owe it to you.
That's
But
right.
it's all. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying with my mom, love my mom dearly. She when my grandmother calls, she want to know she want to know how the floor doing, she want to know how the fridge doing. But you know, she's I don't know. My grandmother.
She's very inquisitive, and she likes to, you know,
she likes to know.
She covers all ground when she calls you.
Yeah.
You know, which,
she'll call and
which is
ask me about my
amazing.
cousins. I'll be like, I don't know what she did, and I don't know. I don't be knowing, but you know, you gotta just, you know what I'm saying? That's one thing I really learned to been working on too, like reaching out to my grandparents. Like just go, like when I go visit my grandmothers, like I'll be sitting there for like whole time, like I'm thinking like, not like I'm gonna be bored, but like me and my grandmother, we be chopping
Y'all
it
just
up.
right,
Like we
exactly.
boys.
Right.
I'm like, you know what I'm saying? We be sitting there talking and she, you know, she always like, you know, motivating me, keep doing what you're doing. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, hearing that stuff, like that, even that's therapeutic. Like, just going to go sit down, talking to my grandmother's, like, you know, like, and what was it? I went to go, me and my grandmother, we were just sitting there watching TV, like, you know, so it's just, you know, checking up on them and, you know, just loving on them because they're not going to be here forever.
Exactly.
And, you know,
And there is something to be said about grandmothers and their grandsons, especially the oldest grandsons. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's written, but
Right.
you know, and not to, you know, of course they love all the grandkids, but you know, y'all definitely got a bond, right? Yeah, that's like one of a kind,
Right.
with your grandmothers.
And I do appreciate that. I like that about myself because some people are like, yeah, I ain't talking to my grandmother in 3 months. I'm like, why? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like, I hate to say like out of sight, out of mind type of thing, but it's kind of like, you know, not seeing them every day it that can play a factor, but it's just we can't forget.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but that's just, you know, one
We are
thing.
guilty of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But,
we're not we humans for a reason.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
We're not perfect, but you know, we work on those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but
This was I definitely say this was definitely a banger of an episode.
yes, it was.
Got a little
Thank you,
emotional. I
fellas.
ain't even gonna lie.
Yeah.
I got caught on camera anyway, so I might as well just say it. Yeah, I got a little emotional over here, my damn self. You know, just thinking as we sitting here talking. But yeah, like moral of the story is, love y'all mothers.
Yes.
That's right.
Not the moral of the whole story or whatnot, because we still going. You
We
know,
touched on a lot of things.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we touched on a lot of things, but.
Yeah.
You're a natural, mom. This is
Man, for sure. This is we float. I'm over here looking at the tongue
Let me
like,
find out if I'm being regular.
yeah, you definitely gonna be back on for sure. But
Appreciate
yeah,
that.
definitely. Yeah, like she said, like us, especially us boys. Well, not all the kids, but especially us boys at this age now.
Yeah.
Like I know, like when she be saying, I'd be like, dang, it's like you open your phone now, you turn the TV on. It's like, dang, there's young kids, young people dying. Like,
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
so we knew Delfonte.
Yeah.
He and it's just not even just like dangers out there. It's just like, yo, you going to get checked up, you going to do this and that. Like, God rest his soul, a kid we went to school with, he had just recently passed.
Oh, wow.
He had I believe it was a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
He had a brain aneurysm. He's a year or two younger than us.
You see what I'm saying?
And it's like I'm sitting there like when I heard the news, it's like damn, first thing I did was call my mom. Like I was just like, yo, mom, like everything good? Like, yeah.
I will say too, like for me, you know, when your classmates start passing away, and prayerfully, you know, that's not something you guys are going to be experiencing ever again anytime soon. But that's when it kind of gets real for you, right? You know, because now I've been out of high school, I guess 31 years. No, how long have I been out of high school? Since 96, almost 30 years. Next year will be 30 years that I've been out of high school. And I've lost a lot of classmates over the years, right? Some intentional. Unfortunately, some people did, you know, unfortunately take their life. But a lot of people, you know, just die from either various diseases and stuff like that, or just tragic accidents and stuff. And when you start losing classmates, yeah, that's when it gets real, that you're like, life is not promised and life is precious. And our time here is limited. So, you know, we got to kind of make the best of it, you know, and call your mamas.
Exactly. When you're gonna go, you're gonna go. That's why we always say, if you woke up, like if you're having a bad day, just think, what's the first blessing you had? You open your eyes, you breathing right now.
There you go.
When you having a bad day, you like, I'm pissed off. Go like this.
That's right. Breathe it in.
Open your eyes. Take a look around. Touch something. You're still doing that. Not everybody woke up. Not everybody's able to hug their loved one. Not everybody's able to call their loved one. So make sure y'all doing it.
That's right.
And like y'all siblings, love y'all siblings. Just y'all, it's families, everything.
That's
For
right.
sure. And big shout out to you, mom. A lot of people don't know, like you helped us with this. with our
Yeah,
brand.
for sure.
You know, this definitely wouldn't be possible without you. Anytime I need you, I'm like, hey mom, listen, I need to go. You know, you ask no questions, like with the quickness too. Like, so I really do.
Absolutely.
And
that's what moms do.
And you know, too, like that's another thing too. Like we ain't gonna sugarcoat nothing. Like if you need help, like if you're building something and you need help, like you're going to need help. Like we're two young men trying to still find our way. Like when you can lean on somebody, you know you can lean on somebody. Lean on them.
Like
you know
she said, I mean, I don't got no money. I don't got no money to my backyard. They already said they don't got no money to their backyard. So if you got one, I don't care where you at. Send me the seeds. You know what I mean? I don't plant, but I'm gonna make something happen.
You're gonna make it do what it do,
exactly.
right? Yeah. No, of course, absolutely. You know, I always want you to know, both of you, because you know, even though I didn't give birth to you, Manny, you know, if something went down, I'm treating you like my son just as well. You know what I'm saying? You come to the house, you know what I'm saying? Like I treat y'all all like y'all my sons, because that's how I see y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I told Scoot the other day when y'all had his birthday celebration last week, I said to him, I think it was the next day, I said, you know, you are really blessed with the friends that you have, right? Because I said, whenever there's something, his 21st birthday, you know what I'm saying? Y'all came so deep. We had to pull out extra tables and chairs, right? You know, and you guys are a good group of guys. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if any of y'all getting in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Ain't none of y'all serve no time. Y'all ain't out here being knucklehead. Like, you know, y'all are a good group of dudes. And so if I can help y'all in any way, I don't care what it is, you know, emotionally, you know, financial, whatever the case may be. Like, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Because I want y'all to know as young black males that, you know, y'all are supported. Somebody does love y'all. Y'all got a backup. Y'all got support. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have a village. You know what I mean? Right. And I'd like to think before you do ever think about going out and doing something silly, what is my mom going to say?
I used to tell myself this. I'm like, yo.
What is my mom going to say?
If I jump in this lake butt naked, it's like...
Please don't do that.
I
you
just
understand?
Picture my mom there with a belt, like
there you go, right? Because I don't care how old you get or how grown you might think you are. The one person you ain't gonna want to have to answer to is your mama when it comes to like something.
I used
crazy.
to always tell my friends, I'm like, listen, y'all can say whatever. I ain't worried about no cops.
See what I'm saying?
I ain't worried about no dude. I don't give a damn if the dude 12 or 13. I don't care if he's 12, 13 feet tall.
When mama pull up.
Yeah, when my mom, I gotta go home and answer my mom.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
That's it. That's the only person I fear.
There you go.
I don't fear nobody. My mom.
And you will feel that way until
to the day I die.
To the day you die.
And I gotta say this too. Like my mom never beat none of us. All it took was that.
She used to be like,
you better close this off.
Tucking your tail.
No, I don't need to put my hands on you.
She did. All I needed was that look. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh snap! Like you feel me? I never like, and it wasn't nothing like traumatized. It was like you have to, as a human, you have to know when you need to be checked. Like
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Just because
now you're gonna be. It's not what's separating us from the animals. You're just gonna be running around like a wild animal.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I don't need to. That was. I wasn't raised that way. You know what I'm saying? I never got spanked or hit. You know what I mean? Actually, I think one time I did but I deserved it. But however, yeah, I don't need to. You know what I'm saying? Because you know you're not gonna respect me anymore. If anything, you're gonna resent me, right?
Right.
So, yeah. As long as we got that understanding, you know what I'm saying? And we've had those conversations, you know, you and I talk, right? And we've had those hard conversations, you know what I'm saying? Where, you know, we are shedding some tears and, you know, and sometimes you got to do that, you know what I mean? Because I'm not perfect, you know what I'm saying? As much as, you know, we like to think we're perfect as parents, we are not, we make mistakes. You know, sometimes you do something as a parent and you regret it. And you're like, okay, I'll never do that again, especially when you feel like it may have hurt your child in some way. But again, it just proves that, you know, we're not perfect, you know. Why are you laughing?
No, I was thinking of something. I was like, no, but like when they do, like we never get an apology though. Like let's be real.
No.
It's one of those. I made your favorite.
He knew better to say that while you talk. He like, I'm gonna keep this myself.
No, but it's like you show other ways that you show. Like you never be like, you know what, son, you know, I apologize. She might be like, yeah, I made them brownies that you like.
That is the apology.
Yeah, I know that's what they downstairs in the oven. I'm like,
you gotta get out of your lil. Like, you still gonna eat them brownies? Like, you just down there like, you know what, mom? You know what? That ass one wasn't that bad, as a matter of fact. He's like, as a matter of fact, you keep making brownies like you whip my ass all up and down this house if you want.
But as I've gotten older now, like that's when I was a kid though. But as I've gotten older now, we're more, verbal, like, iPod, like, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. So, but this was a great episode. I am so glad
I enjoyed
we did
myself.
this episode.
Yes. Can I just want to shout out?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so, Josinia Senior Home Care, we are located at 152 Monroe Avenue in Pendle, 19047.
Yeah.
In addition to that, so that's our non-medical home care. So if you or a loved one is in need of any type of home care, and I know in our name it says senior, but you don't have to be a senior. You just have to be at least 18 or over and have a need for home care. And when you think of somebody who might, let's say, be a little younger, like 18 or over, I'm thinking, what comes to mind or who would come to mind are people who maybe have like certain disabilities where they actually need someone to come in and assist them with their daily living. And then as far as our skilled care, that is Pendle Home Health and Nursing Services at the same location, 152 Monroe Avenue in Pendle. And that again is if you need any sort of nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, social worker, speech therapy. That is our agency for that.
Mention too real quick. Where y'all service at? Like.
Okay. So we service Bucks, Philadelphia, and Montgomery counties.
Chester County too.
Well, we are licensed for those counties, but our main counties that we service are Bucks, Philadelphia, and Montgomery.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
That's what's up.
So.
But like I said, this was a banger episode. We'll just put it in the show notes. Our sponsors. Shout out our sponsors. It is getting a little late. Shout out our sponsors. It's all in the show notes. But like I said, it's a banger episode. Mom, I love you so much.
I love you too, and I
so
love
glad.
We love you, man. We appreciate you. Appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you.
So listen, you already know I gotta say. So if you on the clock, pop them headphones, and if you not, sit back and watch.
Love y'all. Dream big.
Dream big.
Dream big.
That's where I'm going if I get caught on my snake. With that be said, no, it ain't easy if you try your life to stay. When my man died, I seen his mom, and I be damn, my mom go through that. Can't be moving off emotion only if it's lack of respect. We came through there and came back, never called for a rematch. Basically, I'm never lacking what I'm saying. It's for my mans who was just grinding with me, now they in the can. And for the ones I love, got keep around me, hope you understand. You going through it, moving records can let you jeopardize my plan. So much I overcame, even bad days I smile. Praying on my downfall, just know that